All right, what's happening, good people? Jeff C here. It is Wednesday, December the 9th. Finally getting a little bit of snow up here in Rainbow Unicorn Land. Hope you're having a nice week despite all the madness that is happening. We are in full vaccination. The vaccines have arrived, and have they arrived double quick? I mean, double quick. Lockstep is happening here in Rainbow Unicorn Land. They're making all kinds of promises about how quickly they're going to get the vaccines out. Who's going to get them? Oh boy, what theater they have going. We've got to make sure. We've got to make sure that the minorities and the indigenous people and all these and the elderly people, of course, get the vaccines in them. And while all this is happening, you're being told over and over again, yeah, even with the vaccine, you're still going to have to muzzle yourself. You're still going to have to social distance. You're still going to have to, stand in circles and act like retards. They have no intention of letting up their police state. And in fact, that's kind of what we're going to get into a bit here today. I discussed some of what we're going to discuss on a previous podcast, including what you see up on the screen here with the Microsoft filing a patent for reading people's body language at business meetings and stuff like that. This is the future where we're at. You see, they spent the last, if you guys notice, if you go on Amazon for Black Friday, for instance, right? Because that's usually the time a lot of people will go on Amazon to order something, right? Because they'll offer you discounts and whatnot. And I showed this years back that almost everything that's offered on their front page is all the surveillance devices, the Echoes, the Dots, the Alexas, all these things that they want just to be a commonplace. And in fact, we've shown over the years how new high-rises that are being built in New York City, for instance, are being built with Alexa built in. I talked about recently how Roland is making keyboards with Alexa built in and stuff like that. And this is all and again, it goes back many years because when I started doing Free Radio Revolution, one of the first things I talked about was the surveillance state and how they were using biometric ID at concerts and stuff, right? For people buy their beer and stuff like that. What they envision for the future, I mean, we know what we can see, we talk about this all the time, the blurring of the lines between humans and machines. I mean, the blurring of the sexes is full on. You see it everywhere, but the transhumanist sort of future. And they want you to embrace this, of course, and they want you to think that it's going to make life better, easier, safer, morally safer, of course, as I always say. And so what they're doing and using this massive scare, this scamdemic that they have, full blown, and they've used all their tentacles to push on all corners of the world, is to weave in this sort of automated sort of techno nightmare that's coming forth, where everything that we do, everywhere we go, is going to be monitored. And this is already a fait accompli in many ways. I showed videos going back years where, Huawei was showing, I don't know if I pronounced that right, Hawaii or however you want to pronounce it, the big Chinese tech corporation was showing off their ability to track anybody anywhere at any time, even if they changed their face, for instance. They were showing how sophisticated they're tracking and that they could pretty much get any sort of camera anywhere, like hotel lobbies, street corners, whatever, be able to track anyone. And with this big giant scare of the scamdemic, this sets the solutions, of course, in order. And this is what it's all about. I always say the only thing that you should really fear are solutions, because that's what it's all about. And so what we have emerging out of this giant scare, this giant scam that they've used to take away all our rights or suspend them, is this surveillance grid that is being laid out. And so we know what's coming. We already see it. I mean, they already started with the COVID passes. I mean, they started in places like South Korea, China, obviously, right? China, they were showing. And often what they show with China is they'll show you something. Like, I'll give you an example just from a few years back, maybe 2 years ago. This is 2018 or something like that. New York Times, Washington Post, other beast media publications were freaking out because, or they were putting up articles saying, look at this, China's got facial recognition ID in their airports. And when they did that, I said, I guarantee that's already in your airports. I guarantee it's already here. And sure enough, I was right. About 6 months later, they said, oh, yeah, basically all the airports in the United States and in Canada and most likely the UK and whatnot, Europe, already have facial recognition completely implemented. And I showed years back, I'm talking 2015, where they were starting this, and it's the major sort of pro sports that came forth and said that they were going to adopt this technology way back in 2015, saying they were going to use facial recognition technology to make their venues more safe. Because, you know, all the time you've been going to hockey games and basketball games, and there's always people shooting people. Oh, that doesn't happen actually, right? But that's the whole narrative, right? They want you to embrace. Back in 2013, I showed a Coca-Cola commercial that shocked me at the time because I was like, look how blatantly obvious this is. And it was a Coca-Cola commercial in which they were saying it's time to look at security cameras in a different light. And so they were showing security cameras around the world that were capturing moments of human kindness. You know, like a couple trying to sneak in a kiss, or somebody helping somebody out of a car that's on fire, or somebody giving a bag of potato chips to a street vagrant. And they were saying it's time to look at security cameras in a different way. And I was horrified by it. And I said back then, I said, this is just evil, pure evil, what they're doing, because they want you to embrace that you have no privacy, that you have no freedom, that everything that you do is going to be watched. This is what the very small percentage of people who run this New World Order want for the rest of us. And so it's all happening at a breakneck pace. And this whole scamdemic has provided the perfect excuse for them to bring out their solutions. So with all of that being said, I got to bring in my co-host here, the wonderful Camille. Please stop the ride. How you doing, Camille?
I'm great. Hello. Hi, everyone. The nightmare.
You've been watching a lot of this, and I guess we're going to start off with this Microsoft patent to score meetings.
Before we go to this, how you were just saying a minute ago, the cameras to catch all the good moments.
Yep.
I subscribe to this one Chinese propaganda channel, and they're always showing like this old person fell down and a taxi driver stopped to help them up. They're always showing stuff like that, little clip videos of the good things.
Well, they've been doing that. Yeah, the Coca-Cola commercial is just one example, but they've been doing this forever. Where they've been, you know, showing these moments captured on security cameras and then making them blow up and become viral. And then people, you know, because it's a little nasty little trick, right? It's like you actually are showing people doing good things, but the fact that everything that we're doing,
it's because you see everything.
It's being captured, right? They're using it as propaganda to justify their surveillance grid, which is just pure evil. I'm sorry, folks. It's pure evil. And again, I've said this, the privacy commission groups that exist, or privacy watchdogs, are worse than useless, in my opinion. In fact, they must be part of what's happening because they are not standing up to it in any way, shape, or form. And all of this has happened. It's highly unconstitutional. It's against all our rights, and yet this is just exploding. And it's like, wait a second, you know, like how, what are we gonna? And this is where we go, right? Because they don't want you to have time to react to anything they're doing. And of course, they can say, well, you know, freedom was nice, privacy was nice, but you know, we got
this
COVID.
Is cooler. Yeah, we've got all this neat stuff that we can do for you.
Did you see the nurses and the doctors that are on television are telling you that they're exhausted and they haven't taken a day off in 5 years, right? And that aside from making TikTok videos, of course, they're all just overworked and exhausted and terrified for their lives and their future. So yeah, you know, privacy was nice. You know, your rights were nice, but now we're in a new normal now, new world that we're in.
Because there's never been sickness before. We've always all been healthy, and there's never been anything to worry about. This is a whole new scary thing. It's
Well,
just, yeah.
great shout out to Really Graceful. But
Yay.
she put out a great video last week, which I shared on my show, and she said people are so obsessed and fear of dying when they
Yeah.
forget that living is the whole purpose that we're here. I mean,
Yep.
you know, like all these people that are so terrified that somehow they're gonna die are missing the whole point. It's like you're not living, you're giving up your life, right?
Yep.
And it's like this, you are giving up your life if you're not breathing free, if you're all able to walk down the street and or go see your family, go be with your dying loved one before they pass away, or have that turkey dinner, or just get together and have a party. What are you doing, right? Because like you may not be here tomorrow. And
Exactly. Nobody's promised tomorrow. This is such
yeah,
crazy-ness.
and they
Uh,
have taken all of this time away, all of us, all this beautiful life that that's the purpose of us all being here. So it's very evil. And it's very scary where it's all going. And when I caught this Microsoft thing, I was like, what? Like who would, but you see it with the corporations are the first ones, the big tech corporations, of course, are the first ones to, oh, we're gonna, install all these monitors and drones and,
well, and they were the first ones pushing the fear, remember, of it all. They shut down handshakes in Silicon Valley. It was like, no, we've got all the sickness and all the scare with the people coming in from China and people traveling to China. They were the big push right at the start of the scam.
well, none of this would be possible without them.
Absolutely. That's probably why swine flu didn't take off and everything, because people weren't so sucked into their gizmos yet, where now it's like they're just mainlining this information.
Yeah, I think those were test runs for what they're doing now. I think they have been setting the table for this and having this sort of centralized command center where all information comes from one central authority, and that took them decades to set that all up, to get all the countries on board, to offer them incentives to to get their healthcare services. So we have now this globalized system of healthcare, just like we have this globalized system of education.
Well, they've democratized it. Yeah. It's so everybody can have access to the same care. Somebody in Tanzania can access an expert in Texas,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And get the access to the same kind of schooling and
so,
food.
Yeah, let's talk about this particular tech that Microsoft here is developing, or the patent that they filed for it. The ability to stick these things, and they wouldn't be noticeable really, because that's the way it works. It's kind of like the Echo Dot, right? Like like the first versions of their sort of surveillance, like the smart speakers and stuff, where they were, they were maybe the size of a lamp, a small lamp or something. Now they're like hockey pucks or even smaller, sort of thing.
And so they're cute, and people like them. Oh, they're soft and they're colorful. I hear.
Yeah, or they're now what they're doing with the little robots and the little robot toys. It's the same thing. It's like it reads you. It can react. It can change. It's
and how you were saying the thing. Even if you change your face, I know I've seen and heard about things like your bone density and all these different, like the way your body is and functions. They can identify you.
Oh yeah,
and what if they're chemically sampling you? Who knows?
Well, it's not. And again, it's like the tech. You hear about facial recognition, and you think, well, that's the end all and be all. No, because there's hand recognition, right? And then there's body language detection.
Your gait, how you walk.
Yeah, because body language might be the quickest thing, right, for identifying people in a way. Once they have, and again, what are they doing? Well, like, I don't know all the things that they're doing, but I can guarantee you they're making the world's largest database, which has every single human being on the planet.
Yeah.
And Bill Gates played a huge role in this. And India was the testing ground for laying out this digital sort of surveillance grid, because that was the first place where everybody got they offered, some sort of incentives to the poorer people to get onto this sort of digital identification sort of system so that they can get healthcare or whatever they might need, sort of thing. But
Do you,
sorry, go ahead.
do you remember a couple years ago, I think it was, that on Corbett Report, he did the open source investigation into the biometrics, and it was everywhere. I remember I participated in that a good bit. Everywhere around the world was building out these biometric databases on their people. Yeah.
That's because, like, it's all their wet dream going back decades that, we need to use the tech to be able to control the herd, to control humanity.
I have this book. I didn't bring it with me, but I have this book that is from the United Nations, and it is an explainer guide to Agenda 21. And in there, not only does it talk about why your local officials are going along with everything, because they're supposed to as part of the plan, but it goes into how everything, data is everything in the science and technology, this whole biotech craziness, but yeah, and sensors and gathering every bit of data on everyone. It's the only way that we can save the planet.
Yeah, and for a lot of these corporations that partake in this, and the governments, they profit massively from the data. The corporations alone, as you know, anybody knows this, like the cookies, for instance, that you click onto every time you go to see a website, that all that data is it's probably the most valuable commodity, really, when you think about it, because they know everything about you. So it's like if you get Spotify or Apple Music or something like that, they know everything, like what you're Amazon, like they know everything about what you buy, what you're into, what your interests are. And that's money, right? It's like, people that know the classic sort of play or film, Glengarry Glen Ross, with the salesman having those leads sort of thing was the gold, right? Knowing people that were interested in purchasing real estate and stuff like that gave you the edge, right? Because you could track these people down. Well, this is what they're doing. And again, like, that's just the surface, the whole profiting from having this information. But that's one of the ways that a lot of backs get scratched in the whole process. And I mentioned too, like, and I'll mention it again, I've been mentioning it quite a bit, but it's so diabolical. And I know we don't have a tab prepared for this one, but it was the Scotland Yard collecting the children's drawings from the UK sort of public schools in order to determine whether the kids are developing sort of radical personalities. As an example of the full-on surveillance that in the future nothing will escape, or that's the way that they want it to play out, that everything that you do will be recorded, everything. And again, like, so much of what we do, like you could say with the whole dark winter and all the teasing of some sort of grid collapse and possible bioterror attack, coming, because they've been coding this, but they have made everybody so reliant on the system, almost impossible, right? Like, so I'll give you an example, Camille. Like cell phones. Like, I never had a cell phone, I never will, but for a long time you could get away without a cell phone because you could have pay phones, and most businesses would have phones and stuff like that, right? They've removed all of those from pretty much everywhere. There's almost no pay phones that exist. And that's all by design, because their whole purpose was to get you to get the smartphone before they can put it in your body, kind of thing, so that when they have their giant scamdemic, right, then everybody is identifiable, everyone's trackable. Now, I just showed how the Quebec government is tracking every single person. Like, they have no right to do this. This totally violates their constitutional rights. But the Quebec government, under the guise of the scamdemic, has said that anybody traveling is being tracked by the Quebec government to determine whether you're traveling unnecessary.
And they've also said, I don't know about Canada specifically, but they've also said that the governments can just buy all this data, and it's legal then, buy this data from the gizmo companies, all the things that we're carrying around in our trackers, and then they're not breaking their rules.
Yeah, and since it is more or less a giant corporatocracy that runs everything, right? It's like, it's all like, it's not like some corporations or some governmental agencies are standing up to what's going on. They're all in cahoots. That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
whole thing. So it's all a big, everyone's back is getting scratched. Everybody's getting a slice of the pie kind of thing. And nobody's saying anything about it. Even though, and this goes to all the security agents that might be watching the show, your kids and your family and your future is under this horrible Orwellian nightmare. I mean, it's like you might work for one of these things, but the future, whatever it is today, it's going to be 10 times, 100 times worse tomorrow, 1,000 times worse in 10 years, the rate that it's going. Right. You're not going to be able to do anything. We talked about too, like with the smart cities, which is really ironic when you think, with what's going on now. But the smart cities, for instance, would monitor your waste, including your sewage, like your poop and stuff like that. So they would set up monitors, and this has all happened with the whole COVID thing, is that they are monitoring people's sewage,
Oh, yeah.
right, to determine whether or not, first and foremost, whether they have the so-called virus, which is so evil, right? Because then somebody takes a poop or a pee or whatever, and the government's analyzing that to determine what you have. There's no end to where that goes, folks.
Yeah, whether or not your neighborhood needs to get locked down.
Exactly. And so, and this is, you can only imagine where this all ends up, because the smart cities that they're developing, the Wakandas that they want people to buy into. And just like I mentioned, the effort in the sort of opening thing when I was talking about, they're building high rises in New York City with Alexa built in, where it's like everything's being built from the ground up now, with this Orwellian sort of surveillance tech built in.
Yep.
And so that's the future, just like your automobiles. And the automobiles is funny too, because when the OnStar thing came out, right? I don't know if you remember that, but it was like 2012 or something. But remember, I don't know if it was Chrysler or whatever, they had OnStar, right? It was like this emergency sort of thing that you could click on your car no matter what situation you are, and you would have a satellite link to somebody that would be there to help you out. So say if you had an accident, or you're in a bad situation, you ran out of fuel or whatever, but then it was released back then that, oh yeah, basically everything you do in those cars is being recorded all the time,
just in case you need help.
just in case. And it's like, what? And then it's like, and this is again, like, all this tech comes, it can make your life easier. It can make business easier. It can be entertaining. It certainly is convenient. But there's a huge but. There's a huge caveat to it all, and
on the smart city thing, that I was just listening to a talk where they were saying how, oh, we're so bummed there's just not been so much movement as we would have expected into the smart city. And they're like, are you kidding me? This whole thing with COVID, especially putting the closing down courthouses and everything, so many services are moving online, that they're like, that's the tiptoe. That's the more we move online to keep, because people can't come into the office and whatnot, they're like, this is the smart city, this is it all coming. But tiptoe.
Yeah. It's all and the automation too at the same time is all being laid out. Like, it's all, oh, now we're using robots. Look at the cute robot that is using to, help distribute whatever, right? Vaccines or food or whatever, right? Like they've been doing this with the food lines too. Like the food lines, oh, they're using robots, to make sure, and there's sterilization and whatnot. And we showed the pizza delivery vehicles that they developed in California, and it's all happening really quick. And so the robot dogs popping up everywhere, right?
Oh,
and
that's so many versions of that. Oh my gosh.
and that, like, people will recall the Black Mirror episode with the robot killer dogs that basically,
I never watched that one, but I saw a clip of it.
But yeah, I mean, it's not like it's a great episode or anything, but it's a terrifying sort of vision where in the future the only pockets of humanity that are left are deeply underground, and they go to the surface to they risk their lives on the surface to get something, right, to try to get some supplies or something like that, because there's all these killer robot dogs that will just immediately eliminate them, right? But the Boston Dynamics dogs that they have, and I've been showing the whole trajectory of this over the past few years, especially this year. When I showed in Montreal how they started using them at construction sites, and they were like, "Oh wow, this is so cool! Look, they're employing these things." And then next thing you know, they're being used for COVID. Next thing you know, all the popular YouTubers have one. And they're all like, "Oh, look how cool this is, right? Oh, this is the coolest thing ever." And they're taking them out and they're getting people accustomed to these robots. And it starts off like that, folks, because they have to break the ice and they have to get you accustomed. So they want you to think, wow, it's not so bad, right? But they have shown you potentially where it leads. And the rate that these things, these prophecies or these predictive programming things are materializing is absolutely jaw-dropping. So I think everybody should be extremely concerned, because I do believe that we're heading towards like a lot of dismantling the whole police is about ushering in automation of police, like a RoboCop type of future, which they depict in several movies, including the movie Elysium. And that's probably the worst possible thing, because then you've eliminated any sort of empathy or, you know, humanity dealing with law enforcement.
And I think I just saw it was on Jules, her Twitter. I think I just saw she was showing how the military's finding that the robots work better without the humans. They work better when it's just them and not with not with the meat bags.
So do you want to talk any more about what Microsoft has got up here?
The only thing I would really say on this part is that, I mean, they want everybody to have hundreds of sensors in your house. So it's like they'd be able to track all this in your future house, you know, where it's your tower or your sewer tube, where it's all embedded in the walls. And I've got more to show on that later. But yeah, the sensors, they'll be rating and scoring. And like I showed in this video here a little while back, it was an Internet of Things podcast. Oh, wow. Look at how tiny that is. Sorry, I don't think you can read that closed caption. But
actually, you can click on the...
make it bigger.
Yeah, that one there. That's it. The theater mode.
It's still such tiny. It was so much bigger yesterday. I was like, oh, I'm making sure the words were right for everybody. But yeah, how they were saying how they can track how you are on your Zoom calls and everything, and see if you're sad or do you need what's your health, what's your blood pressure, everything, and it'll all be a part of it.
They show that in the movie Demolition Man.
Oh yeah.
So Demolition Man, 1994, 95, Sylvester Stallone, Sandra Bullock, and Wesley Snipes, and they show in the future the computers are reading everyone's body, and it's like, oh, your temperature has risen all of a sudden, right? It's like, yeah, and that movie's one of those movies that's just whoa when you see how many things that they predicted. It's just mind-blowing, the amount of predictive programming in that. But yeah, that's exactly what we're facing. And when you think about it, think about body language, right? Because that's like we talked about with the COVID restrictions, for instance, the kids here in, like, they released a COVID restriction guide for schools when they were reopening in the first wave sort of thing. And it was ludicrous. It was like stupidest stuff ever. It's like if the kid had a headache, or, you know, with sniffles, or, you know, red eyes, or you know, just any sort of symptom, they were forbidden for entering the school. And it's like, well, almost every kid that comes in, you know, sleepy, that was another one. If they're tired, you know, it's like, what kid doesn't come in tired, right, to school? None of them want to be there for the most part. But when you think about the body language, because like I just think about this, and it's like, you know, you think of these films like Gattaca, and of course Brave New World, and 1984, many of these books that talked about how terrifying it will be. So, like, for instance, North Korea being the parallel, say, for 1984, where, whenever there is any sort of government and it's daily, right? The government does these parades and these speeches and whatnot, and they monitor the crowd for the body language. So, like, the citizens, for instance, like, and this is like, and this is not just right, like, it's not just that sort of dictatorship. This is throughout many dictatorships. Stalin was the same. You say Hitler and many others, right? Where people were terrified and people had to cheer louder. Like, you had to really convince whoever might be watching, right? Whoever might be watching, it could be your children, like in 1984. The kids, like, and that's one of the disturbing things in George Orwell's book, is that the kids report on their parents. And it's not like their parents are actually doing anything. It's just that they're staring at the parents, and they're able to detect by staring at the parents that there's something amiss. There's something that they're not abiding by, right? That they're breaking the rules somehow. And this is where we are kind of with what's going on with this whole scamdemic. When you see, for instance, the mobs attacking people for not complying, which is such evilness. I mean, it's witchcraft, in my opinion, what they do. And they get the mobs to go after the Karens or whatever, right? Like, the whole mentality that they program people into, right? Like, you're not complying, you need to get out. And they scream. But this is setting the narrative for this. And then so people will be terrified. And it's already like this in many ways. It's like, I know a lot of people that would never say anything about anything because they would fear having repercussions, like outside maybe of a private conversation, which now, do they even exist?
Yeah. Are there even private conversations?
Right. And think about that in the near future. Like, how are we going to have a private conversation? In fact, I talked about it many, many years ago when I started doing the show, because I talked about the panic rooms. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Panic Room.
Yes.
The idea, like, in the panic room, if you don't know this, is usually in a wealthy household. If somebody's afraid of security or something like that, they have a room that they can go in and lock down everything, and they would have cameras and monitors to see if there's any threat. They would have guns and food and whatnot in the panic room. And I was speculating years back that in the future, and I was even going to write a short story about this, science fiction, that there won't be panic rooms, but there'll be rooms that people go to escape the surveillance. Like, that you would build these rooms that will block out everything, because it'll be the only place that you'll be able to go to think.
Yeah.
And what we showed with the World Economic Forum, and they've been putting out the propaganda massively during the whole scamdemic, is that, like, they boast about it in articles that, oh, you're not going to have any privacy, you're not going to have any money, no private property, no, nothing, you're not going to own anything, and yeah, we're going to collect your dreams and your thoughts, we're going to monitor everything you do, but you'll be happy.
Yeah, you'll love it because you'll have been conditioned to it by then. Oh my goodness,
you'll love it.
And this guy here doing this, I should point out, he's from DARPA. Sorry.
Yeah, well, they're one of the biggest players in all of this, of course. But and then you think, well, Microsoft developing this, and how are they, so what are they going to do? They're going to sell it to corporations who are going to say, okay, we're going to try to get the best out of our employees. We're going to get the best out of your employees by using AI to monitor their every single little frickin' thing that their body does, like their facial expressions, their, the just the eyebrows, how they move, whatever it might be, right? How they're breathing, whether their heart rate increases, or whether there's anxiety being displayed, and then another thing that I showed back when this whole thing was really kicking off, the scamdemic, was in Toronto, how they were boasting about these new sort of detectors that they would stick in the entrance of every freaking business, basically, that would not only be able to detect whether you have COVID and detect whether you have a fever or anything, but would also be able to detect whatever chemicals you have.
Yeah, they were sampling you.
Yeah. Like, they would know if you had freaking, smoked a doob 2 weeks ago or something like that. And it's like, what? How are you gonna, like, and this is what they'll do. They'll do this because they can. Like they'll do it, and then people just, oh, what's the big deal? And then you get the attitude. A lot of people say things like, yeah, well, if you don't have anything to hide, then what are you worried about?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, wait a second. That's not the point. The point is, like, since when do we allow like the most evil sort of like, well, when did you sign up for 1984? Like, wasn't
Seriously.
didn't we read that as kids as a warning for the future about how horrible things would get if we ever allowed this to happen? And here we go. It's not even 1984. It's 1984 plus, Brave New World plus Gattaca and everything else on steroids.
The Circle.
Yeah.
Gotta read that.
It's just nuts.
Before we move on from the topic, on this article was talked about on This Week in Google, that one Silicon Valley show that I watch. And who knows, they could just be acting for their part, but they were all very uncomfortable with it too. They did not like this. They said, how can you assume that you know what that body language means in each person, that everybody's different? And they're like, no blanket stuff like this. It doesn't work. So, but maybe if they get the sensors and they can watch you for long enough, they can see what is, although they already have a lot of the sensors.
One of the things I've been noticing too, because I watch a lot of animal videos to detox sort of thing, is that they're doing a lot of this trickery with animals where they're sticking in robots, like robot gorillas and robot, cats and stuff like that.
To see how they react?
Yeah, well, to spy on them first and foremost, right? Because they have the cameras and all that. But also to see how they react and how they care for and a lot of times the animals are duped into thinking, oh, it's a an abandoned kitten or something like that. Let's take it in.
So they fall for it.
Well, sometimes, yeah, but I've noticed that they've been doing a lot of this, and I think in a way it's just more programming into, well, we're doing this to all of you, period, right? Like this.
Yeah, the animals don't mind. Why
yeah, see, it's not like we're doing it to save the animals, of course.
Yeah, because I thought that maybe they just put them out there and they're recording, but they're not broadcasting a signal. Because I thought that animals don't like drones and things like that, because there's the signal coming off of them. They're smarter than us.
I have a video I made way back. It's on Supreme Lord Commander because I
ripping them out of the air.
Yeah, they're ripping them out of the air. Like everywhere that the drones show up, the animals go crazy because they hate them. And the best are the birds of prey. Like they just rip these things down. Like
good for them.
Quick, yeah, because it's a threat. They know it's a threat. They don't have to know exactly what it is. They're like, this is a threat, right? But that's it, though. It's like. It's so evil how it's going forward, and everybody needs to realize, because we're at that point where we're far past that point where it's like this stuff like is going to change us forever, and it can't possibly be for the better.
And like we talked about last time with the systems like Amazon's sidewalk internet that they're setting up, that once all their nodes are out there, how do you take that down? How do 5G, people,
exactly, right? Like
beyond.
We're going to talk about that because you got the 6G there. But yeah, I mean the 5G, for instance, the ability for them, and again, they could use it. They could say, well, we have to be able to look through your walls to see if you have COVID. This is exactly what they're going to do, folks. I mean, if they show you, like, and I showed this during the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, where they were like, 5G will enable these firemen to be able to see through walls. Yeah. It's like, okay, that's nice if there's well, I mean, it's never nice if there's a fire, but that's fine, I guess, if there's a fire.
If they're putting their lives in the hands of the technology, what if that failed? And all these new firemen are trained with having always the gizmo to. But
that's it. It's like if you look at the commercial and you see, okay, the firemen are using it to be able to determine whether there's somebody in there that needs to be saved. Okay, that's nice, but okay, that's what they're using it for. What is everybody else using it for? What's Microsoft using it for? What's your government using it for?
Your insurance company will be like, you're not moving around enough.
Yeah, that's another one. Exactly. We detected that you've been eating too many Snickers. uh, we've been monitoring, and that's again getting back, like way back to the whole smart meters. That was like what people feared in the future, like going back to a decade, 2 decades, or 10, 15 years dealing with smart meters. When that whole grid was laid out, people were like, well, the smart meters are being put out so that they can detect what all your other smart tech is doing all the time.
And because your electronics all have their own individual signature sort of things,
Yep.
so they can tell, oh, they're running the dehydrator right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and this fits into the whole credits and the social credits, of course, the social credit score, all these things, just like the facial ID, oh, scary China is using it. But then next thing you know, it's happening here. The social credit score is already here in many ways. It's like social media as you look at it. I mean, look who gets promoted on social media. Right.
Yep.
YouTube is an excellent example. Facebook's another excellent example. It's the worst people I've ever seen are promoted on YouTube, without a doubt, without any hesitation. I'd say these people are toxic, every single stinking one of them.
Yeah.
and yet it's like, well, wait a second. If tech corporations really cared about the future of humanity, they would well, of course they don't, because they want whatever their objectives are to be satisfied, sort of thing, which is of course their new world order. Anyways, I don't want to waste too much time, because you got a lot you want to talk about here, so let's move on to the next thing you wanted to show here, Camille.
And I'm sure people have probably heard about this, what's it called? The Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation. I know my state, they're always talking when they do their announcements about how the world's coming to an end and we're all going to die, that they always reference the modeling coming out of this place at the University of Washington in Seattle. And they were funded, of course, by Bill Gates, and that they say in this next thing, this one, they're talking about how this article here, this whole big thing, they don't trust this thing. This is from last year, because it's all the money for the WHO and for all these different groups, and these guys comes from Bill and Melinda. They say there's some conflict of interest there, of course, but the institute is run by this guy, this Christopher Murray, who they say in here was invited by Bill Gates to build this back in 2007. Yes, invited by him, and they've given millions, hundreds of millions to build this program, because they need the data. The only way to make sure everybody's healthy is to have the data on everybody in the world, and that they're also working to provide online courses and technical training to how to read their models that they do, so that they can train the next generation of global health specialists and how to think of, generate, and use health metrics. But people don't like it, because it's all statistics. It's just using statistics instead of what's actually going on. And like, I know this one here, I mean, it's just going to get worse into April. So Christmas has already been canceled where I'm at. So now, and I think New Year's too, and Groundhog Day. I heard Groundhog Day is canceled. So, but into April, it looks like we're still in trouble. And then it'll be the 4th of July, But these are the people pushing out the model. The White House uses this, and the World Bank, that they say that the World Bank uses it as their primary source. And it's crazy, because they're all not only is Bill pushing the narrative with the vaccines and everything, but he's also the modeling funder for the modeling stuff. But
of course he's. I mean, is there anything?
Is
there anything that wretched creature has not got his fingers in?
No.
I mean, I've never seen anything like it. Honestly.
And that people doubt that there's anything to worry about with that. I have family members, and I'm like, what are you talking about? How can you not be concerned that one person, one group has so much sway? I mean, that's crazy.
Cognitive dissonance. I mean, the amount of programming that goes into people, and the amount of debunking and reassuring from the same, when it's hilarious, because Grace showed this, and others have shown it as well, which is you have so you had all these there's a million conspiracies revolving Bill Gates, obviously, because he's involved in everything. So he is the biggest conspiracy guy in the world, because he's involved in all these conspiracies.
Yeah.
That's a fact, folks.
Yeah.
So if they're involved in all of these things, like quantum dot tattoos, for instance, right? And he'll deny that. Oh no, of course we're not doing something. Well, yes, you are. And
Yes, you are.
here, right?
Yeah.
And this is what you're developing, right? It's like this is not a lie. This is actually happening. In fact, you've already carried out a lot of this stuff and tested it out in places like India and Africa and whatnot, right? But yeah, they have. Like, so all these conspiracies swirling around Bill Gates, and then he comes on and laughs them off and, oh, I don't,
flails his arms around.
Right. Flails his arms around and makes up all this crap. And the thing is that all the media outlets that are debunking the conspiracies are all ironically being funded.
Isn't that interesting?
By the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Nothing to see here. Move along.
It's like, God, there's no conflict of interest whatsoever. Your media is totally kosher. Yeah, it's out of this world. How evil this is, and how dangerous it is, and this is like, and again, like. Look, freedom, I think it's pretty clear, right? I mean, I try to say it, like my vision of what freedom is no government, basically.
And no Bill Gates.
Yeah. And like, okay, government, I mean, corporatocracy, because that's what it is, right? It's the New World Order. It's all the big tech and corporations and banks and whatnot. They're all on the same page. They're all pushing the exact same agendas because they all are they're all wanting this to emerge, but that's what freedom is. Freedom is none of that. Freedom is being able to have your free thoughts, nobody in your brain, being able to have conversations with your friends, getting together anytime you want, going anywhere you want. This is the way it was. In fact, you could say 2019, you could go anywhere. Like say in Canada, for instance, the government might have been tracking you, but that's against the law, right? But they're not allowed to. And you could go and you could stay and you could do whatever you want, basically. And then now here we are, 2020, and the government's tracking everyone. There are checkpoints everywhere. And you are forbidden from even gathering with your own family. I mean, when do people, this is why I get so angry with the sheeple, because it's like, your stupidity now is hurting us. It's not that it's not like in the past where you could say, oh, your ignorance is, it's dangerous for our future sort of thing. No, it's dangerous right now because your ignorance is preventing you from seeing what's happening, and because you're not seeing it, because you're not standing up to it like everyone should be, this is all manifesting at a breakneck pace. So now your ignorance is hurting humanity in a massive way, and you can no longer, you can't afford to be ignorant anymore, folks. None of us can be. Right. I mean, we all have to. And it's, one thing I'll say, though, about the whole vaccination thing that's happening is that this will be the most scrutinized vaccine in the history of humanity. And that's why I have a strong sort of feeling that the first round or two is going to be placebos, because I feel like they don't want to have, because if all of a sudden people start dropping dead, then the fear of vaccines will never subside. You understand? Going forward, people will always remember. So they have to kind of relate, or whatever they're going to give us is going to be a slow thing, or it's not going to be triggered until the whole 5G thing is up or whatever, right? Like it just seems to me like at first, because they're already saying, it's going to take multiple doses, and you're going to have a card to start with. It's going to be stamped, and it's going to give you access to certain places. Again, all the places and businesses that partake in this are enemies of humanity. So I'm done forever with pro sports and movie theaters and all this crap, because they are enemies of humanity. If they're going to force you to procure a card or a freaking quantum dot tattoo in the future to get access, you are an enemy of humanity. That's all.
Well,
right?
and they're all working together totally. Like the video I showed the other day with the International Chamber of Commerce and their AOK pass that they want to put out, or they're working to put out. That International Chamber of Commerce has like tens of millions of member businesses. And so it's,
Yes.
if your local community, I know we have a Chamber of Commerce here, so if they're all part of that, and it's over 1 billion people are involved in that, and then they're going to be, oh yeah, you can't go here if you don't have your pass. This is from their group.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Every city has their Build Back Better sort of coalition of, and they're all usually prominent businesses within those cities that are part of this. And again, the whole city thing versus countries is important to point out that it's much more about cities than it is about countries these days, because it's all one world and open borders and all this. So they're breaking down the whole, and of course they're repopulating cities with their open borders, immigration, and different colors and religions and all this, and just completely changing them. But yeah, it's all full on. I mean, what we have coming, and it's happening so quickly. So again, it's all the solutions that are the threat to all of us. And what do we got here? The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Go ahead.
This is a few years ago. This is on the same thing, that Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, but that's out of the University of Washington's Population Health Initiative. And they said here that as of 2017, that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation had already given this University of Washington, of course, it's their little local university, but they've already given them over $1 billion, so they're not doing their bidding. They're not going to do everything like we want them to. Exactly, I'm sure there's nothing to worry about, even though other groups are saying caution, we're not so sure that this is anything that you should be basing all of everybody's life off of, because it only reflects the one scenario that their statistics show. It's crazy. But people are, there are papers and I just like all of our shows lately, I'll link all these things, will be linked in the video off of when I put this up on my channel too, and I'll send it to Jeff too. But yeah, all this, people are warning, but we use it here. I know the modeling shows that we need to be concerned.
Yep.
So, but
lies, damn lies, and statistics, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
People aren't trained in statistics either, and that's what a lot of it is. I know John Taylor Gatto talked about that all of these children, they could be so useful in statistical gathering, of numbers, if they only knew how to work them. But yeah,
and then it's all a game of numbers. Anyways, the whole scamdemic is being played through a game of numbers. It's just rearranging. That's all they do, folks. But I think it's abundantly clear. It's just like, let's just.
If we take all the people that normally die, say, of the flu, and the elderly people that are being, multiple cancers, and we just put COVID instead as the cause of death, then we'll have the sufficient numbers that we need to be able to enslave humanity, sort of thing. To me, that's what's happening. Like, I don't even believe that there's a legitimate thing. I think it's all just manipulation and using numbers, and again, it's always numbers, and I show this all the time. Every time you look on the CBC, CNN, BBC, it's just numbers. Numbers.
And how
can
anybody prove it right or wrong? It's because it's just these numbers gathered from everywhere. But they say that data is the way to speed our recovery. Look at that. They're gonna save us. It talks in here about the new UN Affairs Office that Microsoft is working with with their Microsoft philanthropies. But they keep. I've heard this so many places, how COVID has just pushed back all of our things we'd worked so hard for, the SDGs, all this. It's just knocked us back so far. Other than the places where I hear them talk about how, we've jumped 5 years ahead in just 5 weeks, wow, look at that. All this adoption, because the tech was always the path. Like, look at Agenda 21. The tech was always the path to get us into their plan. But yeah, they've got this new, what is it called? It's coming. There's supposed to be like a trial run of it out so far, but as of November, but it's launching next year, this World Health Data Hub. And they say that addressing COVID-19 is just the starting point, but it's Microsoft and the WHO together, that they'll use artificial intelligence to create a global information center for disease surveillance and knowledge sharing that could help further the SDGs by providing a targeted picture of disease patterns and sharing insight into where particular health issues need most attention.
It's amazing because for thousands of years, civilization has worked. It's not worked perfectly, but it's worked. And never before have we needed all these solutions, these tech solutions. And then all of a sudden, this is the new normal now. And now we're going to have viruses all the time, and you're not going to touch people anymore. In the future, you're not going to make love to your significant other. You're not going to marry. You're not going to have children. You're going to live in a box or a sewer tube. And we're going to monitor everything you do, and we're going to give you rations.
But you'll like it.
Right? Yeah, you'll be happy.
Yeah.
You'll be happy. We're going to provide free tranny porn. It's shocking how evil all of this is, and it's the only way of putting it, folks. Because, again, how do you envision freedom, right? This to me is the nightmare. It's just gonna get worse. I mean, it's horrible now. Because I feel everything is being recorded. Everything, even if you do shut down your computer and your Wi-Fi and stuff like that, there's all the other Wi-Fi that's going. There's the 5G and the 4G and all these other things that are happening. So they're already monitoring everybody with the tech that they have, and then the tech that they're bringing in is just full on. It's full on, no escape. And with Trump, when he showed, I mean, when the whole scamdemic started off, one of the first bills that he signed was the 2 5G bills that they brought in, one for urban America and the other for rural America. And it was
everybody needs access to telemedicine, and they're all going to do their schooling from home. We have to rush this. We have to.
Telemedicine too. And everything being online, which again, when it comes to medical stuff, especially if it's, dealing with mental illness, which is again, a huge part of all of this, because going forward, the solutions are all going to be tech, right? So mental illness solutions will be chips, obviously, right? Brain chips, morality pills, all these things that they want to so they're getting people to express and partake in the sort of divulging of all that information online, which will inevitably follow you forever, sort of thing. But yeah, they are getting everybody to embrace this sort of, just go online to talk to a specialist, or just go online, which again, most of these times probably artificial intelligence at this point in time that they're using for a lot of these, BetterHelp and whatnot. 33,000 experts they have online to discuss with your mental illness. And you had all the top YouTubers, all of them, they're making millions of dollars, Camille, and yet they're all suffering from depression.
They're so sad. Yeah.
Jeez, yeah. Ethan Klein. I've been feeling depressed lately. Shelley DeFranco. Yeah, I've been feeling kind of sad these days. And it's you're making probably $2 or $3 million a month, and you're trying to convince us that you're suffering from depression, and then you're trying to get all your listeners to go online and partake in these highly, evil sort of operations that are, and again, that all fits into your what they're the data that they're collecting on every individual. Every single one of us, they have a data file on. With everything. I mean, they want your DNA, they want everything in there, because
it's
they want
your digital twin. It's not just machines that they want that for. It's not just cities. Everybody's has one, and we're building it with everything.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
everything. And that's why, again, the young generation is massively programmed into all of this, sharing everything online. And again, when I say the mental illness is a great example of that, right? Like just go online and talk about your thing. You've got a ton of channels on YouTube that deal with this type of this is just, again, I don't have Facebook or Instagram or any of this, but I know YouTube and I see these things. And that is a common theme. Again, when you see the type of entertainment, what you would quote unquote entertainment, and the type of programming that the kids are getting, it's almost impossible that they wouldn't be suffering from depression, which, because it's so evil, so toxic what they're being inundated with, all the sexual confusion, the Satanism that's everywhere these days, right? Just like the typical Black Mirror type stuff that people watch before they go to bed. I mean, these things are really toxic for your mental health, sort of thing. And instead of course, detoxing yourself, which would be, removing that stuff from your life, the answer is to embrace more of it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Take more of it in.
Yeah, everything's digital. But real quick, before we move on here, I just want to say talk about how this COVID thing's not a challenge, it's an opportunity. And they're saying how there's so many possibilities, because that when they're looking at it in terms of scenarios and simulation and using AI and machine learning, that there's so many possibilities that they haven't even scratched the surface yet. But I wanted to show here this 3 billion targets. They talk about that in here, that is part of their global strategy on digital health. But I just wanted to show that data thing real quick down here before we go to the next thing, because people don't like the way that Bill's group, click. People don't like that. There it is. So that's coming soon, but the prototype is out. So but people don't like the way that Bill's thing and the statistics, they don't like how that does things. There's another way. You remember we talked about Ben Goertzel. I could play that little intro. Flash. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ben Goertzel and the Singularity Net. He's just great. And
I love their hexagons too.
Yeah. He's super interesting. Like his AI plan, the Singularity Net, like it's all that the AI doesn't have to know how to do everything. They don't have to build one big mega thing that knows how to do it all, because it's all the itty bitty little bits. And then they all work together. They have little agents that watch what they're doing, and then they watch what the next one, and that it's like it's a blockchain. But he always wears that hat.
That's one stupid looking hat.
Yeah.
He looks like a hobo.
Well, yeah, and you can tell listening to him talk, he has health issues. Yeah. I'm sure that's part of what is pushing all this stuff forward. He's of the bloodlines. But yeah, he talks in here about how they ran their COVID-19 simulation summit early on in this and got all their people together to work on how to build their simulations, because he doesn't, I don't think he likes Bill Gates. But one of the things he talks about in here is, because as I'm kind of spoiling it, I skipped ahead there. He looks at what they're doing as like, is it called The Sims or Sim City? Which it's a video game, right?
Probably The Sims.
Okay,
because,
so
yeah.
He's talking about like they're not using just the numbers. They're using little agents to track everything, and they run their simulations using like, this one's a mask, an anti-masker, and they're anti-vax, and all these different parts to build this colorful simulation, which in my mind, I'm wondering, well, when did they plug us into that? Like me, Camille, when is my little agent, they're actually running, well, she went here. If I took my phone, or anything recognized me out and about, but when does that come?
Yeah. They'll be able to predict when you go, like, they probably, in a way, and it's frightening to think. Frightening.
All right, Klaus.
It's frightening to think about, but they're going to know you better than you're going to know yourself.
Well, I believe it. Here, especially Anyway, he's talking here how that there are safe ways. What their simulations have shown, and tell me if this shocks you, that there are safe ways for us to get that herd immunity. Because if we would just clump together, like if we were all in our own little districts, our own little home areas with our own tribe, he says, and that to me, that totally sounded like they'll have your where you work, where you play, and where you live all together, and you stay in your area. And they're talking, he's saying further on, yeah, these home districts, but further on in here, I should have had timestamps. Yeah, clumpiness, that's how we can be safe, is with clumpiness.
Wow.
But there's oh yeah. Oh yeah. But he wants to reward people. He's talking about rewarding people with public health reward points. And somebody in the comments pointed out what a bad idea that sounds like. But yeah, that if you stay home and you stay nearby, you could benefit. You could make out because you're helping everyone stay healthy.
Tranny porn.
yeah, for real. Stay in your sector. You get extra tranny porn, and yeah, he's something else here.
That is again, like they do these little things because like they know, like, and I talked about this the other day with dealing with animals, right? You have to reward them when they do the right thing, and this is this is the way that they're approaching a lot of what they're doing to us, and again, they take away the things that they get you addicted to, all these things, right? You say movies, right? Or video games. Well, that's probably more a bad one to give at this point, but say public things that you would go to movie theaters, going out eating, having dinners and stuff like that, restaurants, sporting events, of course, a huge thing, theater, live music, all these things, right? And most of these things, if they were unmolested and they were just pure what they were, like if you went to a basketball game and it was just about the sport, there was no mind control, there was no giant screens, there was no alcohol being rammed down your face everywhere you looked and all that, these things would be good. They'd be fine, right? They would be a proper sort of thing for society, to function, because they give you an outlet to have some fun and be with other human beings and stuff like that. But, all these things that we have built our sort of our whole economies on, largely, like tourism, all these things, right? Like now they revoke all these things and they hold them back long enough so that people are just falling over, begging for, oh, please give us a solution. Please, here's my veins. I want the vaccine. Please just put it in me. Right. Yeah. And now all these things will be incrementally brought back, but with the caveat, of course, that you have to have the credentials now. Now we have a society that will emerge and we've always had classism, right? That's in every society. It's always existed, right? But now you're going to have identifiable classism, which won't even deal so much with economics as it will deal with what you have been willing to subject yourself to. And then they'll turn, like, again, it's like people that, like, first of all, you quarantine the sick, right? You don't quarantine the healthy. That's just insanity. Yeah, I mean, like, it's just the most common sense thing, right? But here we are, right? This is tyranny. But I mean, we have created this. They have created this fear in people that I mean, I swear to God, I feel like a leper. Because I don't wear a mask and I don't do any of the crap that they tell you to do. And people are terrified. Like, they're absolutely terrified. Like, I don't remember the last time I walked down a sidewalk, Camille, and somebody didn't leave. Yeah. Like, I don't remember the last time I've walked down a sidewalk that I actually shared with somebody walking the opposite way.
You were going the wrong way.
No, yeah. Like, just think about that, folks. Like, gosh. I'm saying that hundreds and hundreds of people that I see, well, say on a monthly basis, will leave the sidewalk and give a huge wide berth because it's like, what am I, a leper? Right? I mean, like, you're so utterly stupid that you're terrified of other human beings. And it's like, it's not like, it's not even a 6 feet thing. It's like a 100-foot thing or 150-foot thing. It's like they see you coming and they're already like getting the wide berth. And it's so utterly disturbing because, yeah, this is the trick that they played on people, is they've convinced people that everyone's a leper, or unless they are completely strictly abiding by all the regulations and rules, that they are a danger to your health. And therefore,
you could bring that sick home to your family.
yeah, and they treat you, and again, even you could say throughout society, lepers, right? It's one of those things that they used to isolate people, right? They would stick them in their own, and again, that's the sane thing to do, right? You quarantine the sick, right? And that's what happened with lepers. But they were ostracized from society, because they were actually sick and they could spread. Leprosy would spread, sort of thing. Not that it's an ideal situation in any way, shape, or form, but it's just this sort of mentality that they programmed into the sheeple is that everyone's a leper unless you can guarantee that they've had the vaccines and that they're doing everything that they're supposed to do, or they've got the COVID pass or the quantum dot tattoo. It's really diabolical because they've broken down, and this is all part of what they're doing. That's one of the reasons why they don't want people to congregate, because they don't want people to be able to talk in private about what's going on. Right? They don't want
do you know anybody who's sick? Yeah.
Do you know anybody that's sick? I mean, like, does anybody know anybody that's sick? Like, legitimately sick?
I know a few people. I've just heard stories recently from a few different people of that they went to wait in line to get the test done for some stupid reason. Yeah. And they left before they got there, but then they got told, "Oh, you're positive." But because they had to wait in line for so long. Yeah.
Every celebrity that's positive, none of them have symptoms. I mean, come on. People.
It's a tragedy.
Seriously. It's just ridiculous. Anyways, what's the next thing
next thing is the 6G, this Nokia Bell Labs, which normally, if I was going to talk about Bell Labs thing, I would tell people to go to Jules, her show, Before the First Cup, and to watch the work that she did, the research she did on Bell Labs and their ties to the government. But I can't tell you to do that anymore because YouTube deleted her channel, which then crippled her website and all of her source links. Everything's gone. So yeah, gone.
So is Jules going to set up something else, or?
I don't think she retired a few years ager after she had a stroke, and I don't think she will be, but
that's too bad. Does anybody have her backups?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Her website was pulling. Don't put your eggs in one basket. Her website was pulling all the information from YouTube. So,
and that's another way that they control us, right? They get, you have to have this to access everything, right? It's like you have to have a Microsoft or a Google ID. And then they just delete your ID, and then all of a sudden you can't access anything because you've been a bad person.
Don't be bad. Don't talk to the wrong people.
You question things. You're thinking that's very evil. We have to ban that.
Yeah.
But 6G, of course. Right?
Yeah. So they're.
It's like, or they're just laying out the grid for 5G. 6G is already now.
Well, it's 2030. They're saying the 6G is what they're saying. They've got to rebuild everything before they can have sensors everywhere. They got to put up the high rises and the sewer tubes. But so they go through all the different generations that we have now, and you see the up to 100 gigahertz for 5G, or less than
100. What?
Yeah, for the different uses. Yeah.
Wow.
And
you
then
thought the 60 gigahertz was bad. Wow.
Yeah.
That is just look at that. Wow.
You like that?
Oh, lovely. Yeah, nothing to see here, folks. It's all good.
Just tying the physical to the biological to the digital, and it's an interesting little talk.
Future infrastructure to augment human existence. It's like, whoa, that's inhuman what you want to do. It's the opposite of humanity.
Yeah. Here we have our digital twin. And look, I'll make it bigger. Why are they? It didn't really do much there, did it?
And did you hear, I wanted to talk to you about this too, the human emulations. Which is, so they're really big on this, and I'll send you some information on this, but just to let you know, folks, this is some of the stuff that they're plotting in the future, is that they're already doing this, which is that you'll be able to have digital emulations of yourself that will have the same status as you in society. Like they're going to grant this to the emulations. So the emulations will be computer programs, digital, representations of yourself that will have the same rights as you do as a sovereign citizen or whatever, right, of the New World Order. And that potentially these emulations could take over the world with the ability they have to augment themselves incessantly, right? Like at every fraction of every second, sort of thing, to augment their computing power and their ability to function. So it'd be like like in the movie Transcendence, where Johnny Depp's character, who's kind of like the Elon Musk character, he uploads his consciousness before he dies into a computer program, an AI program, and then he becomes the most powerful thing in the world. This could already be happening in many ways, that they could be like, I think AI is playing a huge role. I find it interesting too that the Israeli sort of former defense secretary came out this week and said, oh yeah, aliens are real and they're all, the Galactic Federation of Light and all this crap.
Yeah.
Which could be a smoke screen for
look over here.
Yeah, for artificial intelligence, that the artificial intelligence is really the big, maybe that and we speculated this many times that, and I don't think there's any doubt whatsoever that artificial intelligence is being used massively in this massive scamdemic, right?
No, they say as much. Yeah.
Like they'll let you know, but that the whole thing could be a super sort of computer operation, that they might have plotted this whole thing out using AI. Like, how do we get rid of, say, the 7 billion people without them knowing, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And the AI is like, well, first you have a virus and then you implement this and you do that and then you do this and then you do that, right? Kind of thing. It's possible, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, because this is where it's getting to with this. And again, they want to merge us with machines, but I ultimately they want to get rid of most of us. But they do want to merge us, obviously, with machines. And I think that for themselves, like Kurzweil and Diamandis and characters like that, they want something completely different for themselves as opposed to what they want for all of us.
I do think we are good guinea pigs, though, at the moment.
Like, we're good guinea pigs.
To off us all at once, but
I also, I think we're good guinea pigs for now. But I think in the future, like with the automation, first and foremost, it's going to be, like most of what can be done traditionally by humans can be done by machines. So they won't need most of us. But if we are, like in the movie Transcendence, what happens is Johnny Depp's super AI computer program starts to take human beings and inject transhumanism into them, and then they become servants of, and they get super strength and stuff like that, the superhero type of analogy, because they are using that massively to program the kids into transhumanism. And we've talked about it for many years, how the LGBT PQS to be XYZ is a gateway for transhumanism. Just like body piercing and tattooing is a gateway to what they're doing. There's a reason why these things are so trendy and popular. Any sort of body alteration sets the table for the future of what they want to accomplish. So this transhumanism thing is absolutely ginormous. And I think that by 2030 or around there, they want to have most of society in a hive mind control state.
Well, and the other thing that is helpful is that we help build this digital world, because all of our interactions feed the AI, feed the machine, that they would have so much more work on their hands if they had to write a program to make such a complex digital world. But with all of us feeding it all this different information, we write it for them. We're building their digital paradise. I'm not saying throw away all your devices. You're listening to us here. But then we got to figure out some way. There's got to be some way.
Yeah. It's a double-edged sword. Let's just be honest. Okay. So like, obviously we're using this and doing good with it, right? And reaching out and trying to inform people. But it could also be evil. That's the way tech is, though. You could say science is exactly the same, right? It's just a tool.
Yeah.
So the tech is a tool, but it can be used for good and it can be used for evil. And right now, unfortunately, clearly, extremely evil people are running this whole thing, and they are not using it for good. They're trying to fool us into thinking, yeah, this is going to be great for you. Don't worry, it's going to be great. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. You're going to be a slave. You're not going to have any privacy. You're not going to own anything. You're not going to have any freedom, but you're going to love it, sort of thing. Sure. Here's a smiling guy that we put up under our video.
Yay.
Yeah, gonna love it. It's so diabolical.
Because there's more to go here.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
let's
say, so you see how the extreme connectivity, that's one of these 6 key areas. So the sensors everywhere and the new homes that they're going to build, because the elderly, they're not going to be able to keep up with these care homes. That's not safe. So it doesn't work well.
You see that 6 for 6 with 6, right?
Yeah,
so the 666 right there.
Yeah. But they won't be able to keep the old people in the care homes like they have now. So then you gotta the baby boomers, they'll end up in their connected homes that they'll be able to monitor them and keep them safe, and everything will be great. And they can put these little, like we saw at the beginning with Microsoft, to be able to monitor you everywhere. They like the massive MIMO antennas, those are new or newish now, for the 5G. They're able to send out and get back in the signal, so much signal at the same time. That this little thing here, this is like a printed one. They're talking in here about how they'll be able to put that behind like photos and behind paintings and everything, that they'll be able to have these antennas all around you.
What's the 5G is the same, right? That's what they're doing, right? They're disguising it. They're putting it in like, fake cactuses and stuff like that. We showed a lot of examples.
That guy from Crown Castle, the people that own so many of the towers and the antennas, that this Crown Castle, they said in Houston, I think there's a park. It's in one of my videos that they said that it's deployed. 5G is deployed all through there, and that people wouldn't even be able to see.
Yeah, they wouldn't even know it. Crown Castle CC33, Crown, of course, being the corona. Yeah. Which is a crown. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
But exactly. Because it'll be in schools, it'll be in everything, right? It'll be in your the stuff that you get for your home, sort of thing, right? Like you'll buy a cabinet or something. They'll stick it in. They won't tell you.
Exactly. Already now, with when they were talking on that This Week in Google, when they were talking about Amazon Sidewalk, the antennas that they wanted to put out. When they talked about this last year, they were saying that these antennas are going to be so cheap that technically anything you bought from Amazon, they could stick those in there. And it could be anywhere. I mean, you could buy, look at how thin that thing is. What couldn't they put that in?
You can put that in like a whatchamacallit, like a dinner mat or something, right?
Yeah. But it's to keep you connected, it's just, it'll be better, right? We got low cost millimeter wave here. And then this radio on glass, the terahertz stuff. They really like that. This is a super interesting talk, but yeah. And he's all about augmenting human existence, not necessarily augmenting our bodies, but
and look at the 6 again, because they go, 6G, a generational shift to augment human existence. This is all subtle Satanism, right? What they're putting in here, but the connecting worlds, digital, physical, biological, at extreme capacity, at high synchronicity, creating a trusted platform with 6 sense.
Yep. Sounds great, doesn't it?
It's the cube symbolism in that, like it's just a cube kind of going. Yeah, I mean, because that in many ways, like a lot of people would say, that is all the satanic sort of imagery that's coming forth, which is everywhere. I didn't even do Clifford. I was going to do that one. I had the migraine when I was working on it, though. I never got around to finishing it. With the big red dog, that movie that they're coming out with. Of course, dog, spelled backwards is God, big red God, coming next year. The amount of Satanism that I'm seeing emanating forth is out of this world. It's just like everywhere. They're sticking on it, everything. And again, a lot of people would say that that is the whole trick that Satan would play. I'm not saying that Satan exists in the sense of a physical sense, or it could be a more metaphorical sort of thing, right? In terms of they want evil to take over the world, but they use it as a symbol sort of thing. But that tech is really the devil's tool, that the whole tech getting people to, and again, it works. Like if you think about smartphones, for instance, and I talk about GPS, like I used to make fun of it all the time. I remember showing like, where GPS would give out the wrong coordinates and 200 people would end up in a cornfield in Pennsylvania or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Because, and it does make people stupid. Like it makes you stupid because you're not thinking when you should be. Right, like
you're waiting for the machine to tell you to turn left.
Yeah. And look, folks, that's the way it works. Is that this is happening with our language and everything? They're dumbing everything down. This with the abbreviations and the just the spelling of the purposeful misspelling of just common words like Trina. Right, Trina, like what the hell does that mean? But that becomes a saying, right? That everyone uses now. But they're lowering our ability to function at a cognitive level purposely, and making us more and more reliant completely, so that we don't, like instead of what does this mean, or what time does the train come at, or whatever, right? Like instead of using your brain to think these things out, people are naturally using the tech, and again, it just starts to lower your ability to function at a cognitive level, which is all part of how they're bringing in the hive mind of humanity. This is what scares me a lot too, is the hive mind, because that's what they want. Like they don't want people to think for themselves first and foremost. They absolutely do not. That's why they took
dangerous.
over the media. Yeah, it's very dangerous. So they want you all to think the same, basically. And this is where we're going. It's already when like I show all the articles, like we're just smitten, or we can't get enough. Like Beyonce said this, and we just can't get enough. And it's like I guess that means everybody, right? But this is the way that the internet speaks to the hive-minded slaves already. Like that we're all on the same page. We all believe in the same things. And this is extremely dangerous. This is why it's so important for people to use their brains as much as possible. It doesn't mean, and again, it's a balance, right? Because the tech doesn't have to be evil. It can be very useful, like we're using it for right now, right? It can, and you can use it like, you could be spending your time learning stuff and expanding your consciousness and expanding your knowledge. Or you could be stabbing your brain with a fork and watching people change their genders, right? Doing mukbangs and whatnot, right? And that's what they really want, is to lower our ability to function as human beings and congregate and all these things. And with all the restrictions, they're trying to eliminate that ability of communication. And of course, with the communication too, the longer that people don't congregate, the longer that people don't have the traditional sort of birthday parties and gatherings and, just getting together with the neighbors, block parties, whatever, the more that it breaks down that ability to trust people, right? Because that's how you build up trust. You build up trust by having relationships, by, having conversations and obviously physically seeing these people, seeing their faces, and like the amount of information that is displayed when you talk to somebody and you watch their facial expressions is off the chart, right?
And think of how they could manipulate that through the Zoom Thanksgiving and everything, like deep fake sort of stuff. What if they make it look like grandma's growling at you, and they make it look like she's not happy and change what they're saying, what? You'd never know. You'd never know what was going on because you're seeing everything through their lens. And
they could digitally recreate you with their deep fakes. I believe, and I have to say this because the deep fake thing is it's definitely going to play out at some point, like that they are, putting this out a lot and, making it very popular, and it's become like a very trendy thing on YouTube, and I imagine other social media platforms, the big, well, however few there are, but you know what I mean, Twitter and Facebook and whatnot. But
TikTok.
yeah, just like one of the things I see on YouTube, for instance, is like taking, say, popular sort of movie stars. Let's say, let's replace, say, Luke Skywalker with, I don't know, Arnold Schwarzenegger's face or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And then this is what they do all the time. These things go super trending. There has to be a reason for this, and the fact that they can do it, and now they're at that point where it's just completely seamless. Like you wouldn't really know if you'd never seen it before that this has been digitally altered, and and all that. So that is something to highly consider, because if we do not have that physical sort of interaction, how are you going to know when you're doing, say, your Zoom conferencing or whatever, that you're actually interacting with other human beings? Another thing that they put out a lot too is all the fake human beings. They have fake social media characters that they've created, and they have fake media people that they put out.
Yeah, that Soul Machines, we showed them last show or the show before, that Soul Machines company, I think it's out of New Zealand. They've been putting out a bunch of videos, like rolling out more of their little virtual human things. Yeah.
And they boast about it too, right? Because they like, it's, I remember when Google Duplex came out and they were so proud. And I was like, this is evil. Like how is this legal, first and foremost? And if folks that don't know, Google Duplex is an AI automate, or an AI program that you can use as a business or even just a household or whatever to make your appointments, or just like carry out conversations with people. So like what they were showing this a couple of years back, where they're showing people using Google AI, using the AI to call up to make an appointment to get your hair cut, for instance, right? And that it would be a complicated conversation, and that the AI would be saying things, well, that's not a good time for me. Do you have something on this? And what time, and it's just like a real conversation that is completely just an AI program, and that the human beings at the other end are completely fooled by it. Right. And how long before, if it's not already, I'm sure it already is. I'm sure already, probably Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and co get together. They have these Zoom meetings and they put these AI characters in there just to fool whoever they're they want to fool or whatever. Right. There's no limit to what they can do going forward with this type of tech. And this works out perfectly, because you could turn people against each other, or you could create all kinds of tension. Like, again, another thing to consider as well is people not being able to tell reality from fiction, basically, which is a point where we're kind of there. When it comes to the media, it's full on, right? Like, you don't know, like I tell you that most of what you see on your media and the big things is completely orchestrated or staged or faked or crisis acted. But most people would believe it. Right. And so, but then even amongst our realm, we could be duped, right? We could be manipulated, and there's no question that they try to on a regular basis. So, and again, I remember that kind of harkens back to some of the CIA guys coming out and saying, basically we'll know our job is, I don't know when that quote, which was like, it could have been the 60s for all I know, is probably 60s or 70s, but one of the CIA directors came out and said, oh, we'll know when our mission's complete, when we have everybody believing everything that isn't real, or everything that they see is a lie, sort of thing. We'll know that we've completed they're there. That's a long time ago, though. It's been like that for a long time, and that is the problem. Like, that's one of the reasons why it's really bizarre, because when I started doing this, it was like all the truther channels that you would normally associate with this, none of them were doing that type of work. Like, nobody was coming out and saying, no, this stuff is actually being staged, right? And so we kind of created a new view on how the it's not like there's nobody that existed before that said that stuff, but it really, that was sort of a game changer in terms of, because the way that the alternative media would work is that, you know, an event would happen and they would just spin it in a different way. It's like a shooting would happen. They say, like, for instance, there's a shooting in a school, right? And a bunch of people are shot, and the alternative media would come in and say, yeah, but the real issue here is that the guy was on meds, and it's big pharma, right? That's really to blame, because they're putting people on meds and they're going crazy and they're going to shoot up schools.
Yeah.
When the reality is, the utter reality was, no, it's all fake. So that's where we kind of came in and really, you know, shook the rug, or pulled the rug out from everyone, you know, sort of thing, trying to show people that. And so it's already generations of people that are manipulated. So much of your history being that case, right? Like that, just being manipulated from day one into all of, you know, these major events that they've used to mind control you and program you into the paradigm that most people are in. And that's why it's so threatening when you come and you start to shake that paradigm from people, because then everything would fall apart, right? If I can't believe in the official story of 9/11, then what can I believe in? Because if they lied to me on the biggest thing, right? It's not the biggest thing anymore, but you know what I'm saying? That they lie to me on, if they completely lie to me on the biggest stories, then why wouldn't they lie to me about all these other ones, right? Well, that's the reality that we're in. So it's unfortunate that we're here, because, you know, at times I feel kind of frustrated, because it's like, is there any point to trying to show people how much manipulation there is? Because it's just such a sea of confusion. And that, again, with Yuri Bezmenov and the whole deconstruction of a nation sort of thing, right? Like that you can deconstruct a nation in one generation by just completely, you know, pitting everyone against each other and financing all these groups. And that's exactly what you see playing out in the United States, like in Canada and everywhere else, basically, these days. So anyways, I don't want to digress anymore on that.
Yeah. I'm gonna jump over to what Bill says he's not doing, right? And I know we already talked about the Particles for Humanity people and the microneedle, is it moving on your end? Yeah, funded by Bill and Melinda, but they're the single injection vaccines for full immunization. They were talking about how they can encapsulate. So there's time release. Sorry, it's jumping all over the place. That's what I want to talk about, is so much of what they're talking about now with this. Oh, how can we give the shot? And then they got to track and make sure that you get the same shot. Be sure that you're making sure that you get the same kind of shot that you got the first time. But they're talking about this tiny time release stuff. But we'll call her the lady down here that out of MIT, this one right here, might need to wake your ass up. I don't know. But, this one here is super obsessed with Star Trek, I guess. Yeah. Mr. Spock's tricorder. Yeah. And how they're hoping that they can design things that can give information about changes in the body, not just that they can put things in and make the changes, but also to let you know if things have been changed. So
what you showed there before, where they were like the problem and the solution, did you put that back for a second there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you see, like, they've got them everywhere.
Yeah. They're on top of it. That's
and again, as I say, solutions are what we should all fear. That's
they're solutions. We're working on our own. That show's coming.
Yeah. I agree. So problem. Most vaccines require multiple booster shots for full efficacy, which is challenging for people without ready access to healthcare. Solution: single injection vaccine utilizing encapsulation technology to release each booster in a pulse at the right time.
Yeah, they're talking like some things require their second dose 2 months later, so we can mimic the timing of whatever the dosing regimen is, and
they have
get
their
it
little
release.
Little Saturn cubes to go with it. Wow.
Yeah. And remember the nanovirusides people, I know that that's a therapy, that's not a vaccine, but that nanotech that they're saying their stuff can go on topically, it can be inhaled, it can be orally, it can be injected. But I mentioned that because the Particles for Humanity people are not just for their vaccine, like little cookies thing. They're not just for the vaccine technology. They got more money from Bill and Melinda, but they also do the food because so they can put the vitamins in there so that it's healthier and they can.
I think in many ways the Build Back Better is the whole reset is just to establish this, this evil sort of technocracy, or this, like all these businesses that are associated that are plotting out this, like whether it be with the foods or the surveillance or, the satellites or, anything dealing with Agenda 2030, that is really one of the major goals that they're doing by restructuring and financing all these operations and getting them to, this is how they're going to go forward with their future, phase out the old school sort of mom and pop and, free enterprise capitalism and, freedom and all the good stuff that you get from living in a country like United States, for instance, right? And bringing in this just Orwellian nightmare that, everything is geared towards full on change of humanity and full on change of how we function, and putting this tech in all of our bodies. And it's diabolical. I mean, it's like, it's so crazy. Like, again, I don't know how anybody could be pro-vaccine. Like, the only people I understand that are pro-vaccine are the people that made the vaccine.
And the mind-controlled masses, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. But like seriously. And again, look, folks, if they're going to show the three clowns there, the Obama and the former presidents, Obama, Clinton, and Bush getting ejected. I mean, there's no way on earth that you can corroborate that they're getting what you're going to get.
No.
Like, I mean, it's all for show. And they're doing the same thing here in Canada where they're saying, oh yeah, Trudeau and Freeland and these hideous creatures in the Liberal government are going to do it publicly just to get everyone to, yeah, we did it. Now you can do it too. Right. And oh yeah, I don't know if you caught that, but the Deputy Premier of Canada came out the other day and said, oh, we want to get into, there's a lot of Canadians that have savings and we think that this could be used to restart the economy. And it's like, they're basically telling people that they're going to raid your savings.
And haven't they done that before?
They've tried, and they've done it in the past in some of the world wars and whatnot.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, the Canadian government now, $340 billion that they've spent, and they're 1.7 trillion or something in debt right now. The deficit right now is it's like the highest in the world per capita. And they're just spending money like a drunken sailor, at a whorehouse kind of thing. And it's, of course, it's none of their money. And Trudeau's been saying since day one, I mean, he's been saying it we showed it like months back, where this is an opportunity for a great reset. This is an opportunity to build back better and build back for everyone. And it's like, this is so evil where it's going, folks, because everything that you cherish as a free human being is going to be taken away from you.
But they're going to give you the bullion cube of the future. You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go to the other Bill Gates thing. I was shocked. I didn't know about this. I didn't know about this.
Yeah, Ben.
Yeah, Ben here. It's the Branded Entertainment Network owned by Bill.
Oh.
Yeah, and I didn't know about them. He started it back in the 80s, but under a different name. But yeah, that they do the they say that people know, or people don't like commercials. People have ad blocking software, and that people don't like the obvious push of stuff in their face. But that now they're working with the TV and film and the influencers and the music and all that to just integrate these things into what they're doing. So it's like, sure, that YouTube influencer drives that fancy car because they bought it. Sure, that's what they're doing. And that they look at that 40 plus years. They say there's a video that they say that they are the most advanced in using their AI to do this, their rollout. I have a video on it here, this one. Yeah. But to push their stuff on people and just to blend it in seamlessly. So you wouldn't even, I'll make it bigger. You don't even know you're being advertised to. Well, you know you're being advertised to, but people,
all your entertainment is programming.
Yeah.
So that's that's the way people have to realize it. Like it's not all of it is programming. It's not like, oh, they're just sneaking in commercials. Like this is, if you want to be like Tim Pool or something, right? You want to be a drooling F-tard, incapable of critical thought. You would think, oh, it's just marketing and it's, greedy corporations, and they are programming all of humanity, all of your media. So
and
it's
this
like,
is owned by Bill. How many Corona bottles and how much COVID is being pushed, and that's
it's like what the people are wearing, what's in the background, like everything, like every element, like one of the things I love to show is what's in the bookcases, right? Like of the characters that are speaking to you, it gets all part of your programming. Nothing is accidental. They're so advanced with this stuff that, it's all a manipulation. And the only real solution is to turn your back on it, really, and form your own form of entertainment. Like, and this is like, honestly, like all the mental illness, all the, the depression and suicide and all these things that are happening, because look, you take away the scamdemic, go back to 2019, right? We have a quarter of the population that's on some form of antidepressant or some form of, right, drug or something, right? At least. And, there's so many people, there's more than a third of the population is obese, right? And these are all created by the beast, right? Like in many ways, they're created by the beast because people watch Netflix, because people eat Doritos, because people drink Bud Light, right? Because people watch NBA, right? All this horrible stuff is being done to you, and you don't realize because you think it's normal. It's not at all normal. It's not normal for animals to sit in front of a cube and be sucked in, their brains to be sucked and programmed. It's evil, right? And this is the reality, is that that's why you can't, you just can't go along blindly anymore and just say, I like Disney or something, right? Like without realizing how much of it is all part of what they're trying to accomplish. And so, it's very interesting. I never heard of Ben. It does remind me of Ted, though. It's like a 3-letter sort of name. It's got the red in the E that they put on the whole thing.
On that one,
yeah. And branded too. Branded, because like what's going to happen? We're going to get quantum dot tattoos. So in a way, we are all going to be branded. In fact, the whole biometric sort of trading, which they've pushed all over, right? Like, for instance, they were barcoding kids in Liverpool just a couple weeks ago, right? Like, so the branding is all part of where it's going in the future, where, they're going to have everyone, again, the quantum dot tattoo, that is real stuff, folks. That's not conspiracy theory. Like, Bill Gates himself has multiple patents on this technology, and have already done large precursors to it in India and places like that, where they've got people up in barcodes and identifiable like this, and the entire population, and they're able to track people and trace people and determine what medical treatments they've had, or injections or vaccines or anything like that. It's already, they just want to make it full on. They want to make it so, there's no way to avoid it, basically. And this is it with this scamdemic, it's perfect for them, because, they could restrict. Again, it's so evil. Like, I swear to God, where it is right now is pretty terrifying. but where it's going is horrifying. That where we are now, where they're already restricting people, they're already saying, "Oh yeah, we're not going to force you to take the vaccine." This is what they say initially, right? Because they do the same with the mask. Remember with the mask, they said, "Well, we're not going to force anybody to wear a mask," and then,
But the stores will.
but then, then it's mandatory. Then the stores do it, and they said the exact same thing with the vaccines. The vaccines, this is what they said. They said, "We won't force you to take it, but the restaurants and grocery stores and pharmacies and whatnot will."
Yeah.
Because, and it's like, yeah, like they individually make that decision, right? It's like, it's all part of the system. They're not going to be allowed to function without implementing that sort of restriction. And I showed months back how the whole thing was done in China and in South Korea. And in China, it's so utterly disturbing. You have all these checkpoints you go through, and if you have green, you're allowed access to most places. But if you're at orange or whatever, you're restricted. You can only go into, and they've already set this up with the red zones. Now they have purple zones. Like they declared California a purple zone. You know this, right? Like California banned unnecessary walking.
Yeah.
you gotta be kidding me, right? Like what? Who gave the government power to ban unnecessary walking? Well, this is the New World Order. So what do you got here?
Oh, this is more of the branded entertainment. Their China expansion last year, September. They were just talking about expanding over there. Look at this. This is the CEO.
Oh,
Look at that mustache.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite a pedo beard there. If you've seen one.
Oh golly.
Yeah. So and that if that's approved, and China's gonna let that in. Whoa. Right.
Yeah.
Because that's where all the social credit scores are, right? And that's, oh no, we wouldn't do that. Oh yeah. Oh yes, you would. In fact, you are going to do that, and you are already filing multiple patents for it to happen. I mean, we've been showing a lot of it, even today. But that's just nuts.
Yeah, molding the way everybody thinks, all the way to China too. Just, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. I don't know.
Do you have more time?
Yeah. I'm almost out of time, but I do want to show the X Prize Peter Diamandis. They launched a new one. Yay! A new one. This one's going to take 4 years, but he's teamed up with Tony Robbins. You know that guy he's like a help guru kind of guy.
Yeah,
He's all kinds of partnered up with Peter Diamandis and all kinds of things. So him and the Good Food Institute, and then this
they gotta be good if they call themselves that.
Oh well, yeah. Totally. But yeah, they've got the Aspire too, which is a part of Abu Dhabi's Advanced Technology Research Council. But yeah, so this is more of tapping the creativity of the masses. Come win money, help us rewrite what food is. They want to replace. They want the winning teams to develop multiple consistent cuts of a meat alternative that replicates the look, taste, smell, feel, cooking behavior, and nutritional properties of a structured fillet of fish or chicken breast while having a lower comparable environmental footprint, which is funny because they're like, oh, chickens, they pee. If you do it right, though, it can add to a composting sort of system and make wonderful things for growing food. They do all this animal raising wrong for so long, and they're like, oh, all got to go away because it's bad.
Yeah, and then they show you Tyson and Cargyle, and they say, well, this is where your chickens come from. Well, they don't have to come from there.
Yeah, they don't have to. You bastards did it.
You didn't ban us from having our own chicken coops, right? Like, because they do that. Like, they ban all this stuff. Like, they won't allow you to be off their grid. And then they say, well, look, this is why we can't have nice things. Yep. And it's like, no, I don't want to eat some synthetic lab-grown crap from Tel Aviv. Like, take it and shove it.
But they just showed Bibi Netanyahu tasting the first lab-grown steak.
Boy.
They just showed that.
Bibi too, who wants all newborns to be microchipped in Israel.
No,
he just cares so much.
He's so thoughtful, really.
Yeah, Celine Dion might break in and I don't know,
No.
the maternity
Oh.
ward. I don't know, yeah, we're talking about the new.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sprinkling her
So
dust on them all.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's so crazy, but yeah, the X, of course, is their Saturn X. That's why the TEDx XX is all their symbolism, as above, so below. It's all their cube, it's all their Saturn sort of. So when they throw the X in there, it's part of what they're doing. And tomorrow's proteins with the X, yeah,
I mean,
it looks like meat.
they want it to look and taste and smell
Yeah.
and cook like it. How would you? I mean, if they are able to accomplish that, how would you be able to tell? I mean, if you're not going to the farm and buying from a farmer that's still actually raising the animals instead of raising the cultures, Ugh.
Well, that's it. They don't want you to be able to tell. In fact, spam is interesting, eh? Like,
Yeah.
isn't it interesting how, spam became such a common sort of meme, if you will?
I also find it interesting that Spam, the company Hormel that owns them,
Yeah.
owns Applegate Organics, like that makes all kinds of organic lunch meats and bacon and all this. They're owned by the same company.
Wow, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Oh, it's all the marketing thing too, right? It's like you just slap organic on it and you can jack up the price 30-40%.
Oh, sure.
But yeah, I mean, again, the solutions really are, local farming, knowing where your produce comes from, knowing where your animals, your meat comes from, and less is more, but not necessarily like in a horrible way, less. But I'm just saying, like, maybe eat less meat, but more healthy meat, right?
Yeah.
But like getting ourselves, like the fact that they are so intent in tricking us, because I think they know, like, if you just think about it, human beings, like all animals, right? Like, we're meat eaters. There's no bones about it, no question about it, right? From our teeth to our, our livers to everything, that we are meat eaters, and our big brains and all that. And that's in our biology. That's what we are. That's what we crave, right? We crave meat. And just like any other animal that, is either omnivore or carnivore or whatever, right? You that's what your body needs, because that's what you are. And again, like, I believe in treating animals ethically, right? I do not believe, but I hate PETA and all that, because it's all New World Order. But the reality is that the solutions to the mass agriculture, the mass farming, is not making mock meat and convincing people, or using all these chemicals and labs to try to fool people into thinking they're eating a piece of ham or chicken or something, right?
And they
Did you
tried to
see that
say-
though?
Oh,
Did you
what?
see that Israel just opened their
Jeff, we
first?
talked about that on the last show.
Did we? Oh, okay.
did.
It
The
was
chicken.
the chicken. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I didn't.
But
Yeah, go ahead.
they say I have a video
Yeah.
that I'm going to be working on that they want to be open with people. They know how bad the whole GMO thing was. People didn't trust it. They want to be open with you. So how to do that and how to convince people that this is the way, they gave a few ideas on what.
Yeah,
they
that's
can do
I know
for
the
this.
way is to call it the chicken,
Yeah.
even
Yeah,
though there's
and then
no
to get-
chicken.
Get Bill to run some influencers telling you how good it is and how they don't even miss the other
Of
stuff, and how
course.
they feel so
Of
much better
course.
about what they're doing. They don't have to harm animals anymore.
I was feeling really depressed today, but then I ate this I ate this Impossible Burger, and I went on to BetterHelp. You see Shirley DeFranco, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly how it works, right?
And then you got a report back from BetterHealth. They're like, well, this is what the Impossible Burger is doing inside of your body right now. And you're going to be better, just like their little encapsulated things. They'll tell you.
We got the nanotech in the Impossible. It's going to go in and clean out all the nasty toxins in your body.
Yay!
Yeah.
And we'll track it with the biobots through the wastewater.
Yeah,
We'll tell you,
exactly.
you're all clean. This is a nice, clean society.
Wow.
It's
so
crazy. The only other thing that I have here open is our friend Anonymous. He put this thing up talking about how they're going to come for your gas. And this is something they push, the improving the air quality inside. California was the first state to do this, to get rid of the gas stoves and to bring in the electrical everything. They talk about this like in African countries. These women, they suffer. They're cooking with biomass, and so the air quality in their homes, and it's not safe. So they gave them all Instapot things, those pressure cooker, rice cooker, cheesecake cooker. You just plug it into the wall. Well, right now, I don't know if anybody else has seen all the ads out everywhere for the air fryers that do like all these other different things. But remember, we talked last time, Saul Griffith, that's one of the things they want to do is transition everybody from cooking with gas to cooking with everything electric. So don't buy those must-have gifts for your Zoom Christmas parties and everything, because it's just playing right into it. I have a pressure cooker, but it goes on the stove. I hate cooking with electric.
Well, again, it's makes you all reliant on their grid. So all these things offer you freedom, right? Yeah. Like being able to heat your own home, say like with a wood stove, for instance, as opposed, right? Like that's freedom because you don't have to pay for the electricity, right? Which is
they can't shut off your wood supply.
They can't shut it off, right? So they hate that. And then they say, well, this is why you can't burn wood, because, there's polar ice caps are melting and polar bears are dying, right? And they'll just give you some bull crap, and they'll show you some sick polar bear, that's on its last legs, and they'll say, this is what climate change looks like, right? They're so evil, these people, what they do, because they want to destroy all our freedom. That's just ultimately what we face.
What would give you that impression? They want to trace you and track you, and model all your behavior and program.
Like this is what we face, because like we maybe we could say the 20th century was an age where people got lots of rights, right? Like, and you could say a lot of things happen that you could say post-industrial revolution, right? Because the Industrial Revolution was a really nasty period, right, for Europe and stuff, right, to go through, children working in factories and stuff like that, people working 12-hour days, whatnot, right? But then, unions started to come in, all these things started to happen, laws were passed, obviously slavery was banned a long time ago, but we started to improve and started to gain more freedom, right? We started to get the ability to, own a home, for instance, and again, say Henry Ford and whatnot, right? And suburbia and all this, but humans started to get more freedom and started to enjoy life and be able to live lives free, more or less. I mean, in a much better sort of state than we're currently facing, and what we're heading towards now is that government will control every element. The corporatocracy will control every element of society, every element, the energy, the sewage, the freaking, education, the air, the plants, everything, every single element will be controlled. I mean, we've talked about this, dealing with, the satellites and the using plants as monitors and all these different things that they're developing, right, to monitor everything that we do. And they always say information, right? They want to have information on everyone. So, and of course, they're burning people out of rural areas and forests and mountains and whatnot, and everybody's being pushed into the mega cities, and then the mega cities are developing the 5G and the 6G and the full-on surveillance grid and the smart cities and all that crap. And so what we're facing is pure tyranny, like, as opposed to freedom, where we have technology that could give us freedom, right? I mean, I still think back to Arthur C. Clarke when he accurately predicted the internet and everything. And he said, you wouldn't have to live in a city. You could live wherever you want. You would have this computer, and then you could, You could, do all your banking and all your business and whatever else, and send all your letters and everything on the computer. And you would have freedom, that the tech would grant you the freedom to be able to live life on your terms, sort of thing, like in harmony with nature, sort of thing. And that's what we could all be doing. We could all be, harvesting solar energy and just, as you mentioned, like, having our own chicken, but being able to take, say the chicken poop and use it to fertilize the soil and whatnot. Like all that it's all there. The knowledge is there. We could all do it, but that's nothing that they want. They don't want anything. They don't want us to have any ability. They want us all hooked up to their grid, full on 24/7 surveillance. They want to record your freaking dreams.
Yep.
I mean, your thoughts and dreams is they want to record, and they want to make thought crimes. Right. So we are marching towards this. And this is why it's so imperative for people to stand up for their rights at this point in time more than ever before, because it's all going to be swept away. And it shows you that they can whip up anything, and then it could just, well, sorry, you don't have any rights now because we've got this thing. And it's like, no, sorry, you do not have the right to ever do this to us. And this is where humanity must take a stand, because we're on the precipice now.
Absolutely.
We have all of this facing us in the future that could absolutely create the most hellish sort of existence, that we either stand up now and fight it and preserve some sanity, or we go down the abyss, which is what they want. So it really is so important for people to stand up right now to what's happening. And again, that's why this show is so important. Camille, I really always love doing the show with you. I know you have to go, so
yeah,
I guess we're going to close it up right now.
But the solution show is coming.
We could do a solution show. I mean, we gotta when we do talk about it a lot. I mean, we've talked about it many times on this show. You've always got so many different things to offer to people as solutions, and I think that's really important. Pardon me?
And nightmares, the bad stuff. But
yeah,
there's good stuff coming.
Well, we talk about the bad stuff a lot, so
well, you got to know about it, right?
We do have to talk about good stuff too, and yeah, good stuff is the good people that are watching the show. Excellent audience, excellent people in the chat. Thank you all so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Camille's channel's in the description. Please go and sub her if you haven't already. She's doing phenomenal work, and I'm looking forward to doing the next one, Camille, of course.
Yes.
And I'm probably going to do the Patreon show, just for people that are wondering. I think it's going to be early next week. It won't be on Monday because it's Monday Madness, so maybe Tuesday next week, if not Wednesday. So I will announce that. I was going to try to fit it in this week, but I wanted to get this show in, and I have Friday's show. I have something going on tomorrow as well. So lots of stuff coming, folks. And stay tuned, and give us a thumbs up, of course, if you haven't already. Come and support me if you can on Patreon. My link's in the description. And fight the good fight, be the change you want to see, and stand up at all times for your rights. Otherwise, they'll be gone. So anything you want to say in closing there, Camille?
I don't know. Thanks everybody for looking at it all. I think we should definitely talk about Bill and how he's pushing on the media side too. I never knew about that, and to me that makes it all even crazier that he's the guy behind pushing the brands, and his brand is this whole global takeover. And it's no wonder that it's coming from all angles.
Yeah, check out ReallyGraceful for that.
Yeah.
She and again, shout out to ReallyGraceful. She's like 9 months plus pregnant, so she's she's still working. Unbelievable. We're so blessed to have people like Grace and Camille out there fighting, every day and trying to expose all this stuff. So anyways, guys, thank you all so much for being here. I'll see you guys all on the next one. Take it easy, folks.